Welcome, everyone, to the Songwriters on Process podcast. My name is Benno Papari, and on this podcast, I take a deep dive into the writing process behind some of the world's best songwriters. By way of background, I am a former English professor. I have a PhD in English language and literature, and I'm a writer myself. So this is a conversation about writing between two writers. My goal has always been to treat songwriters the same way that we treat prose writers, just as writers, plain and simple. So that's all we focus on. I don't care about tour stories, favorite bands, how bands get their name, favorite foods, anything like that. This is, again, a deep dive into the songwriting process with some of the world's best songwriters. And with that, let's get into today's episode. And today on the pod, it is Melody Prochet, also known as Melody's Echo Chamber. Her latest album is called Unclouded. It is out now. And I loved this conversation because we talked a lot about the things that we have to do to prepare ourselves to write. And I am the same way, and call it procrastination or call it ritual, but she says she has to have a clean space first. And I hear that a lot from songwriters, and I'm the same way. The space has to be clean, whether it's the studio or the writing environment. Also, this is relatively unique. She lives near the sea, and the role that the ocean, that water plays in her process for, I think, mental health, for being outside, but also just what that does, and having a view of the sea when you write, how important that is. Hypnosis is also a part of her process to lessen stress and lessen anxiety. But I think one of the big themes here is the role of nature, how important getting outside is and taking walks. And I think that's very important. So I enjoyed this conversation a lot. Again, Melody's Echo Chamber, the latest album is called Unclouded. Here is my interview with Melody Prochet. As a writer, as an artist, is it important to create every day? Or do you feel like creating every day can rush things or make things sound stale if you insist on doing it every day, regardless of how you feel? So where do you stand on that?
That's a good question. I keep asking myself sometimes, but I feel like it depends where you're at in your process. Like towards the end, sometimes you have to be a little disciplined to get to the end of things. And towards the start, I find it nice to follow kind of your flow and your inspiration. And sometimes it's good to stay in silence and let the things processing and digesting. I really enjoyed in my process this time. I had little windows where I went to work with Sven Wunder in Stockholm. It was like 1 week of intensive work. And then it was like 2 months of break. Somehow everything was kind of like resonating, and good ideas would stay, and non-essential would be, removed with time and silence and, rest. So I guess it depends of so many things, and we're all kind of different. But I feel like a little bit of discipline to go at your desk every now and then in the week is a good idea to get things done and try, even if it's frustrating when nothing good comes out of a day of work.
Yeah. So when you do create every day, there must be some point during the day when you feel like, or when you are creating, where you feel like, okay, I'm not feeling it today. So do you push through, or do you say there's a reason why I'm not feeling it, I'm just going to quit?
It depends. Again, it depends of where I am. If I have a deadline, I have to force myself a little bit more. But usually, I work just in the morning because I'm better in mornings. Or at nights. But I can't do a whole day of forcing things. I have to go walk in nature or do something else, and things still kind of work in my head and my mind. But right now I have not been creative for like maybe 4 or 5 months. But I need to feed my mind with other things in order to be able to be creative later somehow. Yeah.
So are you okay? You haven't created in 4 or 5 months. Are you
Yeah.
okay with that, or does that make you feel a little anxious?
No, I feel these days, I feel that my emotion needs to be express. I feel like the tension is a bit too present. So I feel the need to be creative one way or the other. So I write a lot, like nothing that's supposed to be a piece, but I just have to do things like that to get some stuff out. But I don't turn anything into anything, any product or anything, or any piece for sure. So sometimes it's like just tension that's you need to take care of.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. So do you do other types of writing? Do you like to journal? Do journal writing?
A journal, absolutely, but nothing that I read back. Only getting out my thoughts. But I do that. The discipline. I do that. I do walk a lot, and yeah, that's my kind of. I read a lot as well.
We will talk about both. I'm writing all these things down. We're going to talk about all
Okay.
these things. So I want to make sure I don't forget.
Yeah.
So with the journaling, does that ever lead to song ideas, or do you separate those things and they're very different?
Mm, um, I would say that I separate those things, but I can never tell if things are linked. I think everything is kind of linked somehow. But I think for me the lyrics are more like coming through the melodies, always melodies first, and then I kind of write little haikus, floating things on top. So it never comes straight from me writing down my thoughts, but it's unconscious, like trying to write words that resonate on the melody. So it's kind of a different thing. Sometimes I have like I read beautiful things in a book and I will remember it and write it down, and then it will eventually come back 6 years later on something.
I mean, there are some people that deliberately journal as a way to separate from songwriting because there are things they just can't express in a song that,
Mm,
and they want to get it out, but the song isn't the best place to do it. So that's where the journaling comes in, where they're
yeah,
very
that's a good
separate.
idea. That's really interesting. I think both are interesting.
All right, now let's talk about you said you write at night and at morning. So I just read an article in the newspaper about a month ago, and they said that whether you are a morning person or a night person, that's genetic. That I'm a morning person, and so I'll never be a night person because our bodies are wired for one of those things. Uh, so, but you did say both. So I'm
Yes.
curious, where do you think you're at your most effective?
Well, I think the blue hour, for sure. That like even if it's in the morning or in that blue hour when it's like dawning, uh, in middle, like that limb thing. Uh,
Wait, what is blue hour? I've never heard that
the
before.
blue hour is when, yeah, it's just right before when the night birds are going to sleep and the early morning birds are coming. There's this little gap between where it's the sun is coming up. It's just before that when it's a
Okay.
little, yeah. And it could also be at nights when the sun goes down. This in between moments I really like.
Well, I mean, I am very effective. I get so much done in the morning. Partly is
Yeah.
we have a family, and so practically,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a silence. But I could, even when I was in college, I could never write at night. But there's something about getting up early when no one is stirring, and you feel like you're all by yourself.
Yeah, and your mind is still fresh from the night and everything is like the painting is all clear. I like that moment as well. I'm really morning is magical for that. And then
Can you
nothing.
write?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you write at 3 o'clock in the morning or no?
Um, I think I've been doing like long nights for sure. when I'm really excited about something and I need to. But it's mostly when my daughter is away, because I can't do that when I have my kid around because I need to sleep.
How old is your daughter?
She's 7, and sometimes
Okay.
she go on a holiday for like 2 weeks, and then I have this whole different approach, and I can do whole nights, or I don't stop when I feel inspired, and that's when I can work around midnight, or even a little later or earlier. But since I'm a mother, and when my child is around, I will be more structured, and it will more be in the morning for sure.
Here, and that is the irony to me, is that we have 4 children.
Wow,
Our
Jesus.
and and so the youngest is in ninth grade. Here's to me the irony is that having kids makes me more disciplined because
Mhm.
my time is no longer mine. I have less free time, but I make much better use of that free time.
Oh yeah.
So don't you find it? Have you found that to be, because a lot of songwriters tell me they're much more productive when they have children because they have 1 hour, 2 hours,
Yeah.
and they know they have to get stuff done. So do you
Oh
think
yeah.
that's made you more disciplined?
Oh yeah. That really happened to me. I really also feel more productive and more efficient since I have structure for sure. Frame, and that really helped because I used to have so much free time. It was an abyss really,
Yeah.
and it was very brought a lot of anxiety in me when I was younger. So definitely changed my whole discipline, and it's much better now that I have a 7 a.m. Alarm. And I love it. You know what? I love it so much better than being able to sleep in. I don't feel good when I don't even sleep out anymore, even if I can.
Do you think it's important to then be I think it's very important to be aware of my ritual, like when and where I'm at my most productive. Do you try to put yourself in those situations deliberately to achieve that flow state?
Oh yeah, I definitely I'm always love like I've recently listened to Murakami, this writer, Japanese writer.
Yeah.
He wakes up at 4 and he will write for 5 hours, and then he will do 2 hours run, and then he will just listen to and read and listen to music vinyls with a glass of wine all afternoon, and then he will go to bed at 9, and then that I really love. It's a fantasy for me to do that. I'm not there into the night working, but I love this idea, and I understand how it works. I definitely need discipline. I have lots of rituals. My walking ritual is like 2 hours every day and near the sea, and I feel very privileged to be able to do that. I really know that it's big luxury, but I need that to stay healthy, like because I have to. If not, you just think about all the chaos and you don't get anything done. So I
I
have
mean,
those rituals for sure.
yeah, let's talk about the rituals. I'm a big proponent of exercise. I already did my workout for today. Uh, and I'm a big proponent of exercise for many reasons, but um, I do find that being in motion can be a very effective way to not just for mental health, but for that creative spark that
Mhm.
I get a lot of ideas when I'm walking, when I'm
Mhm.
hiking, when
Mhm.
I'm running. So do you use that how do you use that walking time? Is that a respite, a break from from the creative part of it, or do you use the walking as a part of that process?
It. I think I'm not sure in what way it comes. Sometimes it's before I work. Sometimes it's after. Actually, it's funny because now I do it because of the tides. Because I live right by the ocean, and they have these massive tides, and I love to go on the ocean when the tide is really far away. When I can just walk on the beach, and when the tide comes up, there's no beach, so I have to go with the ocean hour. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's funny because now I kind of work like that, and but most of the time it's usually like a récompense. Like I will work and then I will go to walk, and then everything can resonate in my mind and get into places. But sometimes it works the other way as well. When I'm too tense, I need to walk first, and then I will. It depends.
Do you notice we have a house, we have a beach house that we go to.
Wow.
Um and I notice when I take walks on the beach, um I'm much more introspective. The thoughts are much deeper than if I were, say, walking the streets of Paris or New York or
Oh yeah.
Washington, D.C. There's a different kind that the chaos for me, and I'm not saying this is correct, but I don't, when I walk in the cities, I don't get inspired like I do walking.
Mm.
There's something about like a hike where I'm by myself and I'm solo. So do you ever notice, I'm curious if you've ever noticed that difference walking along the ocean versus walking in, let's say, a city, if
Oh
that
yeah.
inspires you differently.
Yeah, well, I definitely, absolutely. But I'm already not a city girl because I'm so hyper plus plus that the noise, the people, everything is aggressive to me, and I just want to go in underground and hide from all the noise. So that was already something. Then when I'm by the ocean, and solo is important. I really don't enjoy walking with people because they always talk, and I just can't be in my flow for sure. So there's a connection with the movement, there is the flow, and there is the nature, and there's this connection to that place, that mysterious place where you are not overthinking everything, and that comes with a little bit of movement. After a little while, everything is clearing up, and then the flow can come, and the ideas are just like floating around. I don't even know, but then when I work again, they're there, and it's pretty interesting. I really like that.
So when the ideas come to you, do you put them in your phone as a voice memo, as a, how are they, yeah, do you use your phone for those ideas of those times of inspiration?
Mm, yeah, I used to, and sometimes it happens, but I just my ideas will come when I'm at the desk and I'm with the mic and or the instrument I'm using, and I try and I try. I actually am a very slow worker, so I will just try a zillion combination of one thing. You wouldn't imagine how much time I how many melodies I try, and like in the most subtle difference, I just go crazy. And one day eventually it doesn't change anymore, and that's it. It's the right one. But they don't. No, I don't use dictaphone that much anymore. It's really rare.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's very old school. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, um, so, all right. So let's go back to the ritual then. So you wake up. Is there a certain, are there certain, I've read a lot about rituals recently about how they're not like they are there for a reason. Um, it's not superstition. They can make us more productive.
Mhm.
So I have a certain chair, certain room.
Yeah.
Is that important to you?
Oh, for me, I think I need I usually I when I come back from school, dropping my kid, I will have to clean a little bit the space. I really need space to be able to feel relaxed and go to work, and kind of procrastinating a little bit for that. So I need a clear space, white wall. I need to be, no clutter. Yeah, something like that. And what else? What am I obsessing about? I don't know. I have used a lot of hypnosis, uh, depending of my moods and my emotions that I need to deal with. Recently, I've had a little bit of anger things going on, so I'm doing the special anger hypnosis. So that really helps. Um, yeah.
The cleaning. Let's talk about the cleaning because I am the
Yeah.
same way. And this is uh, and a lot of songwriters tell me that too, that it's got to be a clean space. Um, I'd love to think that it's not procrastination, but I think that it is. So is that so when, but you just may need a clean space. So that is the cleaning that's the part of the day every day before you write.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that's yeah, absolutely. I need that little. It's a little interspace, the interval where you're like preparing for what's gonna happen, and I'm terrified each time I go to work that I'm not gonna be satisfied with myself. So I'm like kind of trying to procrastinate, but also I think it's logical to need a clean space to be able to bring something beautiful into that space. And yeah, it's metaphorical, but it's still there.
Do you have to have a window? Is a window important? Natural light?
Yeah, I have my window, and I have my little back garden with the roses and flowers and little birds. And now I just moved my desk to the ocean view, which is like incredible. But I don't think you need that to create beautiful things. I think you can have that window in your mind. It doesn't matter. I used to create with no beautiful view or nothing. It can happen in like, for example, we recorded drums in the community center downstairs in this sort of cabinet of curiosity studio of a lot of analog gear, and it was all dark, no window, and the most luminous things happened in there too. So it doesn't really matter, but I think it's luxury for me to have that. I've always dreamed about. I think it's so cozy, little window, little coffee steaming. you know,
But it's a mood elevator too, isn't it? That doesn't it elevate
yeah,
your mood. I feel like if you're, my window's right here, but
yeah, of course. And
I
trees outside to watch the
yeah.
movements of the leaves. For sure, I need to connect to that.
I mean, that's why I said it a few minutes ago that I think knowing these things, um, what works is important. There's nothing about that tree outside my window that makes me more productive, but I just know that that natural light puts
Yeah,
me in a better space emotionally than if I were sitting
yeah.
in a windowless room.
Yeah, you definitely get that balance, and it's definitely uplifting for sure. But I think you could create beautiful things with no window, even though it's less comfortable. But I love the window with the tree for sure.
Now, can you write for a long? I'm good for about 1 hour before I need a break, even if it's like 5 minutes. Can you
Hmm.
sit for long periods of time, or do you have to get up and do you need
No.
frequent breaks?
Oh yeah, I'm terrible at. I mean, sometimes I have those little moments of trance, but it's pretty rare. It's really rare when time doesn't when I don't see time go by. I used to have that more when I was younger, but now I don't have that patience, and I need to take breaks for sure. And my attention is a bit less. Sharp than it used to be, but also because of all the distractions, the phones, all the stuff. So I try also my rituals is really be careful with the phone and try to. I've taken down so many applications and social media. I don't like all these things, but it's hard because they are addictive for sure, and you need it for your platform.
This seems to be a recurring theme with songwriters I've interviewed in the past 4 or 5 years that they are, and probably artists in general, are recognizing. And this is not a, I'm not ranting against technology, but they're
Hmm.
recognizing that that using your phone means that you're not interacting with the outside world. I mean, the world you can see around you. And it's funny because I've had songwriters tell me these are songwriters in their early 20s who clearly grew up around nothing but phones are saying, yeah, I need to get off of this. It's really hurting my creative process.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I didn't have a phone until I was 20. So I I had this whole period growing up without any technology like that. So I really have that comparison, and I really feel like it's stealing my attention for sure. Yeah, and it can break. Like a lot of people ask me why my songs are getting so short on this record. I used to explore like 7 minutes long tracks, and I tell them I think it's just my attention limits. And also, I think it feeds people's attention capacity at the moment as well. I don't think people can have patience to listen to a whole record anymore, like a 45 to 50 minutes long record.
So
Oh.
when you're creating, then you brought something up that made me think about this. When you're creating, it's hard not to think about that, isn't it? I mean, it sounds like you are thinking about it because you're writing shorter songs, but the fact that you have to, and I read about this recently with other artists, that you have to kind of think about how these snippets of the song, 10, 15 minute, 10, 15 second bursts, are going to end up on social media. And you may not deliberately be thinking about that, but I'm wondering out loud, how that affects the songwriting process.
It does
Um,
affect it for sure. It does affect it. I'm sorry, you didn't finish your
no, no,
question.
no, please, I'd love to get your take on that.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't like I don't have the how to say perspective to really understand what's going on right now. We need always time to understand exactly how it works, but I've definitely questioned like intros and songs used to be very long and interesting and like, but now the intros you can't go so long, or some people still do, but you have to do a radio edit anyway. It always kind of worked like that, but it's even worse. And it's like video, you have to sync vertically, horizontally. It's getting us a headache on promotion and everything. And songs need to you need to deliver a certain amount of emotion in like 20 seconds, which is terrible, but somehow challenging, and somehow it makes you rethink everything. It's really intriguing, um, and scary when you write music. But you shouldn't let this like you know, go fuck with. I still want to do what I like in music, and I think I did exactly the record I wanted to make, and it's fine.
Before we talk about the new record, a few more questions. When it comes to lyrics, are you a pen and paper person or a computer or phone person?
Oh, I'm definitely pen and paper, and I write absolutely terribly you know, little hieroglyphs. And I wrote more like haikus. I'm not a very lyrics person. It's more like little poems, and yeah.
Now, I'm going to get deeper into this
All
because
right.
some songwriters have to have a specific type of pen, a specific color of ink, a specific type of notebook.
Wow.
Is that important to you?
I have to admit that on that, I'm pretty chaotic. So it's gonna be um, like paper that's sitting around, or yeah. Sometimes when I have little idea when I walk, I will use my phone on the notes side of things. No, I'm really chaotic with that. I don't have a obsessional ritual or color. It sounds really cool. I wish I had, but I don't.
You would be very surprised. The songwriters, it's got to be a specific color of ink, brand of
Wow.
pen.
That's
But
cool. Love
this
that.
is what I'm thinking. You're ritualistic in a lot of other parts of the process, but
Yeah.
not in that at all.
No, 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 no. But I have I have many contradictions, and I love paradox, so it's fine. And I'm the perfect grit versus sophistication paradox.
The strength of, and I wish I were like you, because unfortunately I have to have a certain type of pen. Um,
Hmm.
I wish that I were like that because the downside to having that ritual is that it limits you, is that
Yeah.
you may not feel as comfortable if you don't have that pen or that type of paper. Um,
Hmm.
and the freedom to be able to write on the back of a napkin or a back of
Mm.
an envelope means that you're freer to create and not beholden to that ritual. So I think there's an advantage to that too.
It's true. So you have a special pen and ink, and that's that's really cool. I like that too, though. But I understand. Yeah, it's definitely a limitation for sure.
What is the ideal, or is there an ideal emotion when you get your best writing done? Some people can write from euphoria. Some people can write from sadness. Some people can't write from either of those and need a middle ground. So,
Mm.
is there an ideal emotional space where you're most effective?
Wow, that's such a cool question. I think, yeah, I've, I think I've been driven by melancholia for a long time, but it doesn't really work for me anymore. So maybe no, but it's still like I write my best when I'm like going through something challenging and like sad or angry or unfair um, challenges, life challenges. Um, yeah, recently, it's like my mother's Alzheimer has like I've been rocking through Memories Underground, that song. There is like, yeah, just like life, like challenges that really I want to turn shit into gold or light, whatever that alchemist kind of transmutation process and flow, which I really like that in creativity. It's just like getting that movement.
Now that you say that, it I'm thinking about the people I've talked to, and it seems that people with age they they started out writing from a place of melancholy, but at some point in their life, it just became too overwhelming, and they
Mm.
found it to be much easier to write from a place of happiness. Uh,
Mm.
so it sounds like a little bit if that's what you're doing, if I heard you
Mm,
correctly.
I'm not sure. I don't. I think it's usually more when I have challenges that I feel the need to turn it into something happier. I mean, I use that like challenge life like difficulty, and then I transform it into a happy place, something more luminous. That's how I get happier.
One more thing I want to ask you about the ritual, and that
Mhm.
is, do you find that, and this is the one quote I always give songwriters, the writer Agatha Christie said the best time to write a book is when you're doing the dishes. And so we get ideas when our brains are engaged in unconscious activities, whether it's cleaning or folding laundry or gardening. When your brains are engaged in some kind of a repetitious activity,
Mm.
uh, that's when I interviewed someone recently who they were actually, before they became a professional songwriter, they were a dishwasher in a restaurant, but they got so many ideas when their brains were just on autopilot. So do you find that you get ideas when you're doing those things?
I think it's really interesting. I definitely think that that flow can you can get to that flow when you're on pause. Yeah, for sure, and repetition, gardening for sure, and all those like those ordinary chores that are my favorite to do. Actually, I have a really boring life. I really love that ordinary lifestyle because it really definitely gets me to a quieter flow and I can get there. But it's a balance between discipline with getting at work and doing these things. It's like a whole, alchemy um, to get creative, I think. But everyone is different, so I don't know.
All right, let's talk about the new album. What song on this album was the easiest one? Was there one song that just came out all at once? You didn't really have to mess with it. Was there any
Yeah.
song like that on this new album?
Yeah, there is a few actually, but the first coming to my mind is Broken Roses. That was really, I wrote the guitar, little guitar parts, and then the melody on top, and then it was just like getting a bass, very simple, and then a drum under, and it was just really there right away. There was also Memories Underground that was very fluid. Yeah, there were a few ones, but yeah, those two are the easiest.
So do you remember, take one of those songs, where were you in a specific, do you remember where you were when that happened?
Um, Let me think. Yeah, I remember my desk. It was my desk in my former apartment in the Alps. When I just moved 1 year and a half ago. So it was a desk, and I had a view on a church. How do you say the top of a church? It was really beautiful.
Steeple.
Oh, yes, yeah, exactly. So there was a little bit of like religious mystery, like face kind of thing there. There is this that I remember. Yeah, a whole view on, like, I need horizon also to feel good. So that little desk with that church and the horizon, definitely, that was a good space of mine.
So those songs that happen the fastest, are you less likely to go back and mess with those? Do you feel like there's a reason why it happens so quickly, so I'm not going to touch it?
I don't know. It's such a mystery because I can struggle a lot. I'm really slow, and sometimes it's just so immediate, and I have no explanation for absolutely none.
So when you're struggling, then I'm not going to call it writer's block. I think that's too dramatic. What do for me, like if it's not happening, I just go walk away even for 5 minutes or do
Mm,
something else. Are
mm.
there any techniques that you use when you feel you're at an impasse and you just can't break through? Um, what do you do in
Yeah.
those situations?
I always try to come back to playing. Like I will put the song backwards, or I will rush it. Like I will speed it up and have a laugh. I will play around with a new sound, or I will leave the song and never come back, or I will leave the song for a few weeks and come back later and see with fresh ears. But sometimes going back to the playground feeling of, music in the first place was a place to play and have fun. And when you grow older and you have the pressure and you have to, you know, to get money out of it, it gets less fun. There's more pressure. So I always try to play music.
All right, let's end with this because you mentioned reading.
Hmm.
Um, who do you like to read? And, or actually any type of art. I mean,
Yeah,
I think it's important to be exposed to all types of art, not just songs or words. It can be
yeah.
paintings or anything can be inspiring. So, first, let's talk about reading. Who do you like to read, and how? What impact does that have on your
Mm.
lyrics?
Oh, yeah. It's a good question. I think I evolved a lot with aging, of course, but I think the writers that had the most impact on me were like Jim Harrison, Murakami, Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and all those have these like uh, they have this thing in common where there's little moments when there's a door that opens on like another world somehow, either in nature or a little sci-fi little notch or something a little fantastic happens, but still grounded to the real life. But there is this little door that opens, and then you're like, it just let fresh air into your soul. You're like, wow, I like that little liminal zone between fable and realism. So that's something I always love with writing. Recently, I've been reading more like feminism things, classics, and it depends. But I really loved. I've when I was in my 20s, I had like this wild um, thirst and curiosity for the and diverse or cultural diversity. I from all eras, music from all the worlds, folklores, different, all the things. I think it became a kind of education somehow. Movies as well from Korean like cinema to like so many different things, and I love the fusion of all these things.
Murakami, I've heard some Murakami's popular. He gets cited a lot by songwriters, and Marquez as well, but not Jim Harrison. So I'm curious, are you drawn to certain writers or certain genres? Do either of those or certain type of plot?
Mhm.
Uh,
I think Jim
which
Harris, yeah. So, sorry. I think Jim
no, please.
Harrison, it was just like, I think I love the landscape, the epic landscape descriptions, and that he gives a voice to the very vulnerable people. Like I really love the Native American, like always characters and the women personas, and his love for nature was really. But I don't know if I could read it again. Recently, I've tried to read it again. I was so dense that I was like, I can't anymore. It's too much. But I just love to travel into his description of nature, and just like really love his poetry.
So when you finish a book, is your first thought, I want to read something else by that author, or I want to read another author to get another voice in my head?
Wow, I have to admit that when I was younger, I would just need to read all the collection of the one author. I was really obsessive with things I love. I had to read it all. Yeah, so I've done that, reading the whole collection, and then go to something else for sure.
So let me ask you this. Are you able, if you start to read a book and you're just not feeling it, do you have to finish it or can you put it down and not come back to it?
That's a good question. I don't push too hard. Sometimes when someone recommended it, or I know that it's supposed to be, like for example, I've tried to read Anna Arendt books. I've ordered four, and I just don't understand anything that she's saying. I've tried and I tried. I was like, I don't get any sentence. That's unfair. So that's probably the one I just had to. I just don't have it. I don't have the intellectuality enough to understand her philosophy, which is a shame because I know that she's a, yeah.
So to me, there's a very clear line. The songwriters, so I've interviewed songwriters who have been around for 40, 50 years. I had Jerry Harrison of the Talking Heads on.
Well,
People have been around for a long time. And the songwriters who've been around for the longest read a lot. So
mhm.
I think there's a pretty clear connection there. So how do you think that being an avid reader makes you a better songwriter?
Mm, that's a good question. I would have to answer already in terms of, like, for example, my record's called Unclouded, and it's just unclouded is that ideal state of mind that I'm trying to get after with all those rituals we're mentioning. And I think it's a reading is a part of cultivating your discernment, your non-binary thinking, your tolerance, your curiosity, your thirst for living. And so I think reading is like one of the most important things to stay to have a clear mind, and to stay alive, and don't get into bitterness and anger and all those things. I think reading is so important, and listening to art, like being curious about what's going on culturally, and to keep being curious for sure is something that I find interesting. But reading is an activity that I find the most rewarding and interesting.
And that's it for the latest episode of Songwriters on Process. You can find all of the old episodes on all major streaming platforms and probably some minor ones as well. You can also find them on the Songwriters on Process website. I started the site back in 2011, so that means there are hundreds upon hundreds of interviews with some of the world's best songwriters. So take a deep dive into some of those episodes. They are all great. Of course, I'm biased. Also, shameless plug, my book, Desolation, a Heavy Metal Memoir by Mark Morton with Benno Papari, that is me, is out now on Hachette Books and in all major bookstores. Mark is a good friend of mine. He is the guitarist in the metal band Lamb of God. And so we collaborated on his memoir. I'm biased, but that's a damn good book. Again, it is called Desolation, a Heavy Metal Memoir. And lastly, if you want to get in touch, go to the Songwriters on Process website. You can fill out a handy contact form and it'll get to me that way. You can also email me at ben@songwritersonprocess.com. I'm all ears. Send me your comments, your suggestions, your complaints, people you want me to interview. I get great suggestions all the time. I can't respond to all of the emails because I get a lot of them, but I do read all of them. And let me know your thoughts. If you have ideas for people you want me to interview, there's your chance. And with that, I am out. See you next time.